Hold on now.
Hey, can I start? All right, good morning, everyone. Um, Welcome to the first session on the panel titled The Most Vulnerable Should Take Responsibility for Their Well-Being, Gendering, Sexual Agency, and Reproductive Health in Africa. By way of introduction, I would like to say that sexual agency and reproductive health are important issues in Nigeria and, in fact, in the world generally. Like, if there's no reproduction, the world will not grow, and human population stand the risk of extinction. So, in today's panel discussion, in this first part and in the second part that will take place immediately after lunch by 3:45 p.m., we'll be looking at the state of sexual agency among Nigerian women of reproductive age. In addition to that, we'll also look at how reproductive or sexual agency has affected women's access to reproductive health, as well as consider the role that men play in women's exercise of their sexual agency. Now, you may wonder, what is the relationship between sexual agency and reproductive health? But the truth is that if there is no sex, there won't be reproduction. So sex is a vital aspect of reproduction, both for humans and animals as well. But in the process of um, the kind of sex that leads to reproduction sometimes comes in various ways, okay? It could be an intentional kind of sex, and at the same time, it could also be otherwise. So the situation in which the reproduction occurs sometimes determines the outcome of the pregnancy in some cases. So we'll also be looking at the laws, policies, as well as religious and sociocultural values as impacted women's exercise of their sexual agency. And that have also impacted reproductive health. And then we'll be looking at the power that emerging discourses on sexual agency hold on African continent. So all the panelists in this session will address the will address and explore issues surrounding the theme of sexual agency and reproductive health by investigating it from historical, current, religious, and various perspectives. So thank you very much for being on this panel. I hope that we'll have an exciting deliberation. So for this morning's session, we have four presenters. Three of them are here physically. I don't know if the last person is around or if he'll be presenting virtually, but for now, I'm here to see him. So the first presenter is Joel Abba from Kogi State University. You'll be presenting a paper titled Conflict-Induced Displacements. Conflict-Induced Displacements, COVID-19 Pandemic, and Women Reproductive Health in Internally Displaced Persons Camp in Benue State. The second presenter is Oluwatobi Joseph Alabi from the University of Johannesburg. You'll be presenting on the topic focusing on women's empowerment and agency in Kaya Matters discourse in Nigeria. The third presenter is Sonia Achigbon Okone from Koladaiti University. She'll be presenting on the topic Tell Me As It Is, Fact Dissemination and Reproductive Health Decision Among Nigerian Girls. And the last presenter for this session is Maluchi Chukwuemeka, who will be presenting on the topic Educated Celibacy and Modern African Female Agency. I think we'll start with the first presenter, Joseph Abba. Joseph Abba.
So we're up.
Joe, sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so Joy Albert lectures in the Department of History and International Relations at Kogi State University. He's also a PhD student in the Department of Peace, Security, and Humanitarian Studies, University of Ibadan, Nigeria. His doctoral thesis focuses on the assessment of health security and peace building in the internally displaced persons camp in Benue State, Nigeria. He has published extensively in blind, peer-reviewed journals, international journals, and book chapters contribution. His research and teaching interest cuts across social history, conflict, sex and sexuality, humanitarian management, disaster and risk management, and civil society. He's a member of several professional organizations such as the Legal Studies Association, Historical Society of Nigeria, African Studies Association, and Society for Peace Studies and Practice, Nigeria.
All right, thank you. I don't know if.
Well, before we continue,
okay.
may I please, I think since they are just maybe four, I supposed to be four, but right now we are tentatively three. So I think you can present for 15 minutes each for now and see how that goes. So I think you can present. This is the mic. So
All right. Thank you. Let's say.
Sorry, I'll let you know when you have 5 minutes left.
All right, that's not a problem. I should finish before then. Thank you, LSA. Thank you everyone that is here to listen to members of this panel today. I'm Joe Abba, and I'm going to be presenting on conflict-induced displacement, COVID-19 pandemic, and women reproductive health in internally displaced persons camp, Benue State, Nigeria. Like we all know, it's been in the news over and over again how since 2010, for more than a decade now, 2 decades and more, farmers and herders have been at loggerhead to the battle to access ownership and control of lands, as well as water and all of those. And this crisis have led to the displacement of over 1.5 million people. And then records with the Benue State Emergency Management Agency reveals that more than 65% of those displaced are women, and also about 25% of those who are of this 65% are women who had already conceived before the displacement or even became pregnant in the IDP camp, and all of that. And then this is to say that the issue of displacement day in, day out makes the livelihood of women even more difficult than it can be imagined, because even in the rural areas before displacement, many of the things they suffer is inadequate healthcare, dilapidated healthcare, and all of those, poverty, and all of those. Now, despite the interventions of government and CSOs, the pregnant women in the IDP camps suffer from malnutrition, inchoate health systems, lack of access to qualified skilled bed attendants, overcrowding, and several other issues. These challenges and many more exploit the vulnerabilities of these women, thereby impacting on their reproductive health very adversely. To further worsen the issues, the outbreak of the COVID-19, known as the Wuhan virus, further worsened their suffering. The situation could be perfectly captured as somebody falling from the frying pan to the fire itself, because the attempts of the government and international organizations to curtail this virus led to the shutdown of several of the activities of the civil society organizations. And some of them that were not completely shut down were operating at the very skeletal, operating epileptically. And so now, I mentioned earlier that even before the COVID-19, these persons were going through a lot. And then to now add the COVID-19 to it, it meant that it was going to be another tales of sadness and tales of sorrows. And then, so the CSO, civil society organizations responsible for health, now had to, a lot of them had to withdraw specifically because they were also afraid of the virus, afraid that they may lose their lives and all of those. And then the central argument is that conflict induced displacement, COVID-19, and poor health infrastructures collude to skyrocket the maternal mortality rates, thereby impacting on women's and sexual health very negatively. The study examined the impact of conflict-induced displacement, COVID-19, poor health infrastructures on women's sexual agency, the roles of states, civil society in policy and practice, and the coping strategies of IDP women. The methodology, the study adopted both qualitative and quantitative research approach. Okay, let me not bore you with all of that. Let me just go to my first objective, which is okay. All right. Let's listen. Okay, now for this study, the participants were purposely selected to include women, men, IDP camp managers, staff members of CSOs, and the Benue State Emergency Management. Tools for data collection includes unstructured interview administered through in-depth and key informant oral interviews. The in-depth interviews were carried out with the IDPs, men and women. And then I know some of us will be asking that this study is about women reproductive health. Why is it that men are included? Of course, the number of those that were interviewed, we had about 65% of women interviewed compared to the men, which is making it 35%, which means that the men also could actually tell of the pains that their wives go through and all of those. Because sometimes in the IDP camp, you need to be careful because some of the persons there are married, husband and wife, children are in camp. So if you must sometimes interview a woman, you must seek the consent of her husband so that it will not look like you are attempting to do something. And then camp managers, because from the Benue State Emergency Management Unit, they have those that are specific camp managers. They are responsible for what goes in and what comes out of the camps. Those are staff members of the 3 IDP camps were selected to do study to cover the 3 senatorial zones from Zone A, Gatu, Zone B, Naka, Zone C, Logo. These locations were picked to show how the entire state has been plundered by conflict, displacement, primary healthcare deficits leading to poor reproductive health. Then I'll just go straight to findings. Part of the findings revealed that women in the IDP camps are at a higher risk of sexual assault, unwanted pregnancy, teenage pregnancy, and poor maternal health outcomes. All of these culminates in poor reproductive health. There were cases, a lot of cases, although many of the times women, it is difficult to have women speak about their reproductive sexuality and reproductive health. It takes a lot sometimes to have them talk to you. But then for some of them that I was privileged to speak with, they suffer some levels of discrimination to the extent that because they are displaced, it has to get to the process of sex for food. Some of the IDP camp managers violate these women and these women just want to ensure that they keep getting food. So sometimes persons could get higher rations of non-food relief material replies to the extent to which they are able to comply. And then that showed explicitly because I had the tour guide with me from the Benue State Emergency Management Agency. And whenever this tour guide was with me, the women would not want to speak with me about their ordeals. And so some of the times I had to take a walk away from the tour guide who is intentional about monitoring me. And okay, just give me some space. I'm coming. He said, these people are very dangerous. I said, no, let me just speak with this woman. And then there are issues of young ladies, 17, 18, 19, getting pregnant in camp, and they are even afraid to tell who is responsible, and all of those nonsense is happening. And so, as a matter of fact, there were issues of about three ladies that were trying to abort on a child they were not expecting abort, and then a lot of them found themselves in complicated medical conditions, and so all of those. So it was also discovered that conflict uh, leads to destroying infrastructure, food, water, and sanitation systems, and also reduces access to healthcare. Now, I established earlier that normally the access to healthcare was even very poor. But now that there is displacement, it even makes it poorer. And then COVID-19 led to shutdown of several humanitarian organizations, and then limited access to healthcare, gender-based violence, poor maternal health, conflict, and all of those impact very adversely. Now, role of state and civil society organizations. Now, according to the Kampala Convention, um, internally displaced persons are supposed to be the sole responsibility of the state governments. However, civil society organizations are encouraged to give supporting hands and ensure that there is that level of complementarity between the state and civil society to ensure partnership. But what we saw here is that the state civil society partnership is very poor, and then a lot of times too, as the IDPs depends on relief materials, some of the persons working with the state emergency agencies also hoard those materials, and to a certain extent even steal some of them. And so it's a very, very precarious situation. And then there was more focus on COVID-19 kits, nose mask, and all of those than giving attention to the women and all of that, and then increase in self-medications. Now, a lot of persons are taking drugs without without diagnosing to even know what is happening. They just go to one chemist and then they get 15 naira paracetamol. And finally, they just, okay, just miss drugs for me. Some of those women, a pregnant woman going to meet the man who is selling drugs, miss drugs for me. And then the man just miss some things and gives to them. They don't even know what they are taking. And then that is, and all of those. And then inadequacy of skilled beds. Now, a lot of the persons that were involved in deliveries were persons that were sponsored or hired 5 minutes more, okay, by the civil society organizations. Now, a lot of the civil society organizations had to withdraw, and then many of those people also had to withdraw too, and all of those. So, inadequacy of poor sex education, improper family planning, women getting pregnant even while in IDP camps. I had to ask one of the men, how come your wife is this pregnant? And there is a sign that there was a little baby there of about 1 year, and then they've been in the camp for 6 years, according to the demographic data I collected. For 6 years, they've been there. And then this is we begin to wonder, and then they said, so, life is the way it is. And so, and all of those. So coping strategies of the women, a lot of them became involved in street begging, hawking, A lot of them had to resort to the traditional delivery centers, self-protections, weapon of the week protests. During the COVID-19, they had to go to the street and then begin to ask for help. Then churches and all of those had to come in to ameliorate the issues. And then reporting rape and other forms of gender-based violence to relevant authorities. This was very, very minimal. A lot of persons don't want to talk about it. And then if you, any attempt to make them talk about it, it's usually very difficult. Then conclusion, why conflict ravages all phases of women reproductive and sexual health, civil society organizations have very important roles to play in protecting the most vulnerable women and girls. There is a policy dimension to it, and it is not just policy. The practice dimension is also very essential, and that is very encouraged. The state will also plan how to take care of the most vulnerable during health emergencies and all of those. The study recommends dealing with the causes of displacement, strengthening modern health infrastructures, and traditional delivery homes. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you
Okay.
very much, Abba. I actually enjoyed your presentation, especially when we consider the fact that all of us here were privy to what happened during COVID.
Yes.
And I can imagine how traumatic the total experience must have been for people in the camp, and especially the women. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to the next speaker, who is Dr. Sonia Achibong. I don't know if anybody is online.
Yes.
Joseph,
You need any help?
the second speaker is supposed to be online. But I don't know if he has. Is he there?
Nobody's online. Only attendees.
Okay. So,
None of the panelists.
okay. All right. Okay. So we'll move on to Dr. Sonia. So Dr. Margaret Sonia Achibong Okone is a lecturer at the Department of History and Diplomatic Studies, the Koladaisi University, Ibadan. She's a legal historian, researcher, and a women and youth development enthusiast. She holds a bachelor's degree in history and international relations, a master's degree in history and diplomacy, and a PhD in African history, history with emphasis on the legal at the Institute of African Studies, University of Ibadan. Dr. Sonia will be presenting on the topic titled Tell Me As It Is, Facts, Dissemination, and Reproductive Health Decisions Among Nigerian Girls. You have the floor for 15 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me. So as my topic says, tell me as it is. Examining actual information dissemination as a panacea for better reproductive health decisions among Nigerian girls. This topic was informed by my experience of teaching a 100-level GSC class titled Nigeria People and Culture. So I have contact with 100-level students and some direct entry to 100 level who are between the ages as I examine here. And it is my discovery that there's a lot to be done in case as it concerns information dissemination to this generation. It does not mean that parents are not talking. Parents are talking, but they are not understanding what the parents are saying. There is a generational gap, I noticed. So with all of the channel noises could be that when you're trying to pass information, you're using words that someone else cannot understand. And so you encode, they cannot decode. And the children sort of are living in their own world and doing their own thing. And this is affecting, their sexual and reproductive health choices. So I'll go straight to my introduction, and which is that one of the challenges young people face globally is decision making. And the most dangerous stage of that confusion comes during the adolescent age, because the decisions they make are usually based on the amount or depth of information that they have or that is available to them. So depending on the issue, it can impact their future negatively or positively. In this sense, we're talking about reproductive health. Any wrong action now can actually damage, something for women, because I am focusing on the girl child here. So the concern here is the information or knowledge adolescents have or should have about sex and sexuality, because it directly influences their reproductive health. So how can a young person equip herself or himself with the right information or knowledge? Is the burden on parents, or is it on family? Is it on schools, the society, books, or the social media? So for the girl child, as I say, it's particularly worrisome because she bears the burden of most of the, fallout of wrong reproductive health decisions, like pregnancy, for example. She does something with a boy unguarded, without sufficient information of what the consequences may be. It's not the boy that will get pregnant, she's the one that will get pregnant. She will most likely drop out of school. The boy's life will continue. At the end of it, she's lucky to have the baby. She may not find a husband because they'll say she's after one. You know how they say, okay, that she has dropped an engine before. So it's the girl child that suffers the most. So what period of a woman's life is the most important? What period? And I can say that the years between childhood and the dawn of adolescence. And this is because the management of the child during those years will help her cope with the developmental changes that will soon occur, according to Jana 1986. So mothers especially have a duty to inform the child of what to expect in order to reduce the shock when it happens. So, for example, you just talked of what is happening in the IDP camps. When I started this work, I discovered that, okay, we're talking about children that have the privilege of being with their parents, or maybe guardian, because I said guardian, parents and guardian in my abstract. But what about the children that are in orphanages, for example? Mm-hmm. What about the adolescents, like you just talked about, that are in IDP camps? So I started the work. I did not know what I was going to discover, but these things started coming up. Okay. So the statement of the problem is that information is everywhere and can be accessed by anyone as long as they are able to read or write. Is what I thought, until I found out that even those who cannot read or write can also access information because of the feedback I got from the students. Okay. So the situation presents a predicament for young adults who may not have been properly instructed at home or cannot have open and honest conversation with their parents or guardians because of the taboo nature that surrounds topics like sex and sexuality in our society. So this lack of or insufficient knowledge about their sexuality makes a lot of youth vulnerable to making wrong choices regarding their reproductive health. The attendant problems and consequences shows that there is a gap. Sorry, there's a gap, there's a communication gap, and it is important for that gap to be addressed. Okay. Literature review that I've come across has tried to address this issue from different angles. We've seen that adolescents the world over face significant sexual and reproductive health issues as a result of negative norms and values. As I just mentioned, the case of Nigeria, sex and sexuality is sort of wears a taboo, they wear taboo around it. And that prevents open and honest discussion between parents, guardians, and the adolescents. In a study that investigated the nature and relevance of parent-adolescent sexual and reproductive health communications, Uzonwa submits that effective parent-adolescent communication on sexual health issues is a factor that could influence the adoption of self-sexual behavior in young people. This means that yes, you will talk, some of them will listen, some will not listen, but at least the prevalence of the negative aspects will be greatly reduced if you can get to them. An assessment of mother-daughter relationship by Irinoye 2006 led to an examination of the knowledge and mastery of sexuality and its association between mother-daughter relationship and the mastery of sexuality among female university students, and concluded that good mother-daughter relationship is positively associated with the healthy sexual development and maturation of young girls in Nigeria. The justification of the study, I'll go straight to the third leg, which is that the proper management of the female child during the early years will help her cope with the developmental changes that will soon occur. And this shows that efforts have been made to encourage better communication between parents and children as a panacea for improved knowledge and awareness about sex and sexuality education for informed health and productive health decisions. So this study is crucial, first, because there is a need to find better and effective ways to communicate with young people in Nigeria with all good intent and purpose in line with global realities. What is global realities? Children are now sexually active earlier than they used to be. 13, 14, they know what you don't know, unfortunately. And most parents are not aware, of these things. Puberty has also set in earlier than it used to be. At least I think in my days, you'll be like 13, 14, 15. Yeah. And so we'll be late comers, so we will be later than that. But now, girls as early as 8 or 9 are already menstruating. So, once that occurs, something significant changes in the system of the body. So the child needs to be informed to understand that, okay, this things will come, it is normal, but you must not do X, Y, Z in plain language. Okay. And secondly, the subject matter of this study resonates with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 3, which seeks to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. So if we want to define reproductive health, we're talking about the state of complete well-being, okay, as far as reproductive health is concerned. Methodology. I use both primary and secondary sources, and I used a descriptive cross-sectional design to analyze the questionnaires I gave out to adolescents between the ages of 16 to 20. Actually, I intended it to be for just 100 level because I think that's the most vulnerable when they come into the university. They are fresh from town, one. They are having freedom for the first time. And that freedom is hardly checked. Okay, so that they needed to be guided. But I found out that I've seen students come in at 15 and turn 16 in school. So by year 3, you're still 18. So I had to allow, at a point, students in 200 level, 300 level also to take part in the survey. And I collected this data from, I had a semi-structured questionnaire given to the students. It was open-ended. So in some you see in my results, that some of them said something that I couldn't but put it the way they put it. And others were content analyzed. I also selected some parents to speak to about this. I started with a question about, while I was going about giving the question, we found out that it was better we had the focus group discussion. And in fact, by the time we had the focus group discussion, I discovered that this thing, if it's gender, yeah, but we have to look at gender balance. Because in fact, I felt guilty when I was giving the girls the form to fill the questionnaire. And the boys kept saying, "Ma, what about us? So you don't care about us, And I said, no, this is for girls. Every time you be saying girls, what about us? And honestly, I also found out that we would seem to, I stand to be corrected, as we would seem to be neglecting the male child who is probably going through something close to what the girls are going through also. So we thought of it at the end of the day, we are probably going to expand this study to also look at what challenges the boys face also towards their reproductive health. So the secondary sources included books, journal articles, and those were also content analyzed. So let me read my findings. First of all, this is the social demographic characteristics of respondents. I looked at their age, I said 16 to 19, but actually added 20 to it. And I found out that I had 21, 22. Okay. But the majority, 41%, were between the ages of 16 to 19, which falls in line, of course, with the United Nations, the WHO's definition of who an adolescent is. In fact, they have brought it down to 10 to 19 now. Yeah. I looked at ethnicity, my school is located in a Yoruba town in Ibadan, so definitely we had more Yorubas participating. There were other tribes of between about 22%. Yeah, 25% thereabout. Religion, Christianity, Islam, and then courses of study had law, mass comm, computer science, medicine, surgery, psychology, a lot of them engineering courses, many, history, international relations, and political science, and biochemistry, industrial chemistry. Year of study, as I said, I intended for 100 level, but I had to extend. But at the same time, I have about 34.2% of the 100 level. So anyway, so far, I just had like 108 undergraduate students responding because it's like the pilot study. Okay. And the ages ranged from 16 to 22, the median of 19.5. Of course, more Christians than Muslims participated. I had to talk to most of the Muslims, like explain and explain. In fact, at points, I retrieved the earlier questionnaire and I removed their names. Don't give me your name, just give me your department, your age, and that was when I started having responses, yes. So knowledge of sexuality and reproductive health among the students, how knowledgeable are they? I asked as a young girl, do you think sex and sexuality education is necessary? 106 out of 108 said yes. So they are aware, first of all. Have you had any formal lesson either in school or elsewhere about sex education? I had 92% say yes. And do you have an idea of what reproductive health means? 91% said yes. And some of them even tried to define it for me. Okay, going to an open-ended question. Do you understand how your menstrual cycle relates to your reproductive health? Because once the menses stops, means that there's fire on the mountain. So I had to ask that question. Okay. So I asked, do you think the social media has influence on how, on how young people perceive sex and reproductive health? 72% outrightly said yes. Okay. Only 4 of them said no. That means, you see, they live their life actually on the internet. Okay, so 5 were undecided. 4 said not exactly, not really, personal issue. Okay, so but there are some answers I had to bring out. Say yes, social media has made people think sex is a kind of sporting activity for the youth to indulge in freely and casually. Yes, the social media has normalized sex for people of my age. Yes, because on social media, abnormal things are being portrayed as normal and right. Social media makes it feel like it's natural to have sex without any consequence. It gives the idea of knowledge through podcasts. They get the idea. When I say those who cannot even read can also listen podcasts, and they say explosive content. So I ask them, please, what is explosive content? They tell me it's bluffing. Okay. So yes, because those are some videos that lead people into the wrong way. I had to put that exactly the way they give to me. Who do you think has the most responsibility to educate a girl child about her reproductive health? The answer, 52%, 52.7 came to mothers. And then 16 said both parents. others, family, friends, undecided. And that's why I have to bring the case of, the case of a child who is in an orphanage. She's an orphan, she doesn't know her parents, and she's pregnant from Kurukere. So this is the case of Fela saying that double wahala for dead body and the owner of dead body. You know, she's there now pregnant, it's about 4 or 5 months. We may want to kill her, but what if she did not have sufficient information about these activities, exactly where, the point I'm driving at. How do you think adolescents like yourself should be communicated about sex and reproductive health? Because we need to know how to talk to them. My mother talks, but I don't understand her. She uses coded language. Then one said, like, she would tell me, don't go near a boy, you want to go near a boy, you're pregnant. And then she said, in the class, a boy sits here, a boy sits here. A boy sits here, a boy is there. She's not been pregnant since. That means there's something else to it. So it makes her curious as she wants to learn more about it. So they said the truth about the topic should be communicated in a straightforward way to avoid them looking for information in the wrong places. That knowledge of sex and reproductive health should be taught early, before adolescent age. Remember, I said that the most important age is before that adolescent age. So they already have it in their mind, both at home and in schools. They should be spoken to calmly in a non-judgmental manner using appropriate language. And the topic should be brought up during casual conversation between parents and their children. Otherwise, they will not pay attention. This is coming from them directly. And that sex and reproductive health should be taught in schools at all levels. So my conclusion, therefore, is that there is a need for effective communication between the girl child, especially, and their parents, guardians, or whoever that child, I don't know, is close to, concerning sex and sexuality. This will lead to informed sexual reproductive health choices among girls in Nigeria. Because if they know, yes, then they can say no to a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sonia. As someone that works with young people, I've taught in secondary school and now I'm teaching in university, so I've had access to young people, both as teenagers and maybe as young adults. And I would say that sexual education or access to sexual information is very vital for young people. Should anyone consider the various information sources that we have that can either make or mar their reproductive health decision. So your research is very laudable. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I guess you have your questions ready, but you can still keep them on and then we'll treat questions. Maybe we should wait a little for him to so are you back on?
Yeah.
Can she start? While you're checking if the other person is there. Okay, while we are waiting, I also like to talk about societal preferences about the reproductive health decision or actions of young people. Like she rightly said, a lot of adults or parents shy away from the fact that their children are having sex. But the truth is, whether we like it or not, whether we pretend to know about it or not, a lot of teenagers and young children are sexually active. So if that is the case, the onus then lies on us as parents, as adults, and as people who are informed about reproductive health care and reproductive choices to tutor these young people and teach them on how to make the right reproductive choices rather than leave their decision making to whatever they get from the internet or from their peers. Because and then the fact is, no matter how much you teach them at home, how much you tutor them in church, and how much information you think they have, their friends, their peers have a very strong hold on them. So that means that if we want our young people to make the right reproductive choices, it has to be the decision of everyone. Like if I talk to my children, my young siblings, and you talk to yours, and everybody does the same thing, and at the end of the day, we have less cases of unintended pregnancies and unsafe abortion, which in the long run will protect women's reproductive health. So thank you very much. Now we'll move on to Maluchi. All right. Just a moment, please. Okay, so Maluchi Chukwuemeka is a social entrepreneur and an African historian who coordinates an international literature quiz for young school children. She has written a book on African history for children titled Hidden Histories, The Science World of Ancient Africa, and has just concluded a master's degree at the Institute of African and Diaspora Studies at the University of Lagos. So Maluchi will be talking on the topic titled Educated Celibacy and Modern African Female Agency. You have the floor.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Before when I wanted to write this topic, when I actually sent in my abstracts, the intention was when I was looking at educated celibacy, I just felt, okay, something similar to what the last speaker said, opening up and speaking to children about these things, you understand, so that over time you get celibate before you even start before you at a young age. But by the time I started off with my research, there are things I discovered that in the first place, this educated celibacy, which we're talking about, it seems as if, irrespective of the fact that we look at the West as being overly immoral, it's interesting enough that we've had a lot of celebrities from the West who are the ones now who champion celibacy. We have Ciara and her then fiance who decided they were not going to indulge in sex till they become married. We had Nicki Minaj after a toxic relationship in 2017. She decided that she didn't want to decide to go celibate. We had Daniel Craig, even after singing his prayer song from Monday to Friday, you have different girls. He decided that he wanted to go celibate. I think for the past 24 months he's been celibate. So it came as a shock to me that, okay, it seems like the West, and I think to a large extent, that's why I'll look at it as actually being educated celibacy, because more in Africa these days, maybe because of economy, because of so many things, we might not be practicing this. So, but let me start the paper, then we'll see more on it. So I looked at it from the historical context of educated celibacy in Africa. So let me give a description. Educated celibacy, which is the deliberate choice to abstain from sexual relationships in pursuit of educational, career, or personal goals, has long been a notable phenomenon in African societies. So this paper aims to explore the significance of educated celibacy in the context of modern African female agency, shedding light on the complexities and implications of this practice within cultural, social, and historical frameworks. So throughout history, African women have embraced celibacy as a means of asserting their independence, pursuing education, and challenging traditional gender roles. The practice of educated celibacy provides a unique lens through which to examine the evolving roles and expectations of women in Africa, as well as the intersection of traditional modernity and female empowerment. Why I want to talk about this history, we'll know that in the past, like let me say in pre-colonial Africa, women had roles which they were playing in most communities. And for some of these women, they were not expected to get married. Like I know in my mom's village, there's a lady who she call her Yomu. She wears white, shine white cap, and she goes about that she's well respected. But I think at that point in time, she's a way older woman, but at that point in time, it seems as if after getting married and having children, she's now brought into this revered, elevated role. And then she doesn't have anything, she becomes celibate. So I think most times in African societies, that is how women are. It's not like from a young age that they start to be, they would have maybe have their children, maybe live their life, and then you see them, they start, they decide to become celibate, maybe because of the traditional roles that are given to them. So let's go into the, I want to go into the analysis of cultural, religious, and social factors influencing educated celibacy in Africa. For cultural factors, in many African societies, traditional gender roles and expectations place a strong emphasis on marriage and procreation as essential components of adult life. However, cultural values and norms vary widely across the continent, with some communities valuing individual autonomy and personal growth. Educated celibacy can be influenced by cultural beliefs that prioritize education, career advancement, and personal development over traditional family structures. Additionally, cultural attitudes towards women's roles and responsibilities within society can either support or hinder the practice of celibacy among African women. So for the religious factors, religion plays a significant role in shaping attitudes towards celibacy in African societies. Some religious traditions encourage celibacy as a means of spiritual devotion or as a requirement for certain roles within the religious community. For example, in Christian traditions, celibacy is practiced by some nuns, sisters, and clergy members. In Islam, celibacy is not encouraged, but there are instances of individuals choosing to remain celibate for religious reasons. Religious teachings and interpretations can influence individuals' decisions to embrace celibacy as a way to deepen their spiritual commitment or fulfill religious obligations. So for social factors, the social dynamics, including family expectations, peer pressure, and community norms can exert a strong influence on individuals considering celibacy in Africa. Family members may pressure young women to marry early and prioritize family life over personal ambitions. That's why I was talking about most times in Africa, the women don't just wake up as young girls and decide that they want to be celibate. It takes it comes over after years of maybe having children and all that. So peer groups and societal expectations can also contribute to the stigmatization of celibacy, particularly for women who choose to remain unmarried. However, changing social attitudes, increased access to education and economic opportunities are creating a new pathway for women to assert their agency and make choices that align with their personal goals and aspirations. So looking at, I want to examine the perceptions in modern African societies, perceptions of educated celibacy in modern African societies and its impact on female agency. So perceptions in modern African societies. In modern African societies, perceptions of educated celibacy can vary widely depending on cultural, religious, and social context. Like we said, while some individuals may view celibacy as a positive choice that allows them to focus on their education, careers, and personal growth, others may perceive it as a deviation from traditional gender roles and societal expectations. So impact on female agency. The impact, it can have a profound impact on female agency in modern African society by providing women with the freedom to make choices that align with their personal goals and aspirations. So as I go further, we'll see the case studies of women who have actually used it to move forward in their career. So by opting for celibacy, women can pursue education, career advancement, and other opportunities that may have been otherwise constrained by traditional gender roles or family obligations. So celibacy can empower women to assert their independence, challenge societal norms, and redefine the boundaries of female agency. So now I want to go into case studies, where I want to give case studies of successful African women who embrace celibacy for empowerment. And from Kenya, we have Wangari Maathai. She was a renowned Kenyan environmentalist and political activist who embraced educated celibacy after having children. I think she was in an abusive marriage, so she opted after she divorced her husband and decided that she didn't want to have children. She just wanted to be an environmentalist, and I think she eventually won a Nobel Prize. After that, then she embraced celibacy as a means of self-actualization and empowerment. She dedicated her life to environmental conservation, women's rights, and sustainable development in Kenya. So by choosing celibacy, she was able to focus all her energy and attention on her activism and advocacy work without the distractions of romantic relationships. Her celibacy allowed her to prioritize her mission of environmental protection and social justice, leading to the establishment of the Green Belt movement and her groundbreaking achievements, including becoming the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004. So another case study from Liberia is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. She also had, she was married to her husband, who later, they both went to the US to study. And then when she came back, she had 4 boys, the pressure of having, taking care of the children and the career, the family, broke down the marriage. So because of that, well, let me go into her story. Then the former president of Liberia and the first female head of state in Africa embraced educated celibacy as a means of sexual actualization and empowerment throughout her political career. Celibacy allowed her to focus on her education, professional development, and public service without the constraints of traditional gender roles, or societal expectations related to marriage and family. Her commitment to celibacy empowered her to navigate the male-dominated political landscape in Liberia, challenge entrenched power structures, and advocate for democracy, peace, and women's rights. Celibacy played a crucial role in her journey to becoming a trailblazing leader and a symbol of female empowerment in Africa and beyond. So these case studies exemplify how successful African women have embraced celibacy as a means of pursuing education, career goals, and personal empowerment. By choosing celibacy, these women have been able to channel their energies into areas of passion and purpose, breaking barriers, challenging stereotypes, and inspiring others to embrace their own paths to self-fulfillment and success. So these stories serve as powerful examples of the transformative potential of individual choice, agency, and resilience in the pursuit of personal and societal change. So I want to talk about the challenges and opportunities which African women face if they practice educated celibacy in the 21st century. So the challenges, it could be social stigma. African women practicing educated celibacy face social stigma and judgment from their families, communities, and peers. It could be family pressure. Families might exert pressure on women to prioritize marriage and family life over personal goals and aspirations. Lack of support. African women practicing educated celibacy may struggle to find support systems and resources to navigate challenges which they will face, not that they might face. So without adequate support, women may feel isolated, overwhelmed, and discouraged in their pursuit of education, career advancement, and personal empowerment. So for opportunities, of course, we've talked about personal growth, we've talked about empowerment, community impact. African women practicing educated celibacy can serve as role models and sources of inspiration for others in their communities by sharing their experiences, advocating for gender equality, and pursuing their goals with determination and courage. So these women can also contribute to positive social change and empower others to pursue their dreams. So I also looked at proposal of strategies to promote and support educated celibacy.
5 minutes.
Okay, as a tool for empowering African women. Education and awareness campaigns can develop and implement education and awareness campaigns to challenge stereotypes, myths, and misconceptions surrounding educated celibacy in African societies, mentorship and support networks, establish mentorship programs and support networks for African women practicing educated celibacy to connect with like-minded individuals, skills and development workshops, and organize skills development workshops, training programs, and empowerment sessions to equip African women practicing educated celibacy, because really they need this. If they don't have them, that's part of them. If they don't have anything to hold on to, they really cannot practice educated celibacy. So advocacy and policy initiatives, advocate for policy initiatives and legal reforms that support the rights and choices of African women to practice educated celibacy. And of course, celebrating success stories and role models like the ones I talked about. And then more research and data collection can be done on it to better understand the experiences, challenges, and opportunities faced by African women practicing educated celibacy. So in conclusion, I would like to also explore the intersectionality of educated celibacy with other movements advocating for gender equality and women's rights in Africa. So interestingly, while I was doing it, I just felt that it wasn't interconnected. But I have to say, I think feminism comes in a bit in this educated celibacy. I think it was so. Yeah. So let me just look at the exploration of the intersexuality of it. So there's empowerment and education. Educated celibacy can be seen as a way for women to prioritize their education and personal growth, challenging gender norms. Educated celibacy challenges traditional gender norms that expect women to prioritize marriage and motherhood, sexual and reproductive rights. The choice of celibacy intersects with discussions around sexual and reproductive rights in Africa. Then feminist discourses. Educated celibacy can be viewed through a feminist lens that emphasizes women's agency, autonomy, and right to self-determination. So recommendations, policymakers to support women's education, provide social support, educators to empower women through education, promote critical thinking, offer mentorship, then community leaders to challenge stereotypes, foster supportive communities, and promote gender sensitivity. Then equally support services to provide counseling services, financial empowerment, networking opportunities. So by implementing these recommendations, policies, makers, educators, and community leaders can help create a more inclusive and supportive environment for African women choosing the path of educated celibacy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Malichi. I'm sure that you all agree with me that these sections, I don't know.
They are quite innovative.
Yeah, they are quite innovative. I find them very interesting, and I must really applaud the efforts of the panelists. Thank you very much. This session has so far like exceeded my expectations, and I'm glad to have made a call for this panel. Let me just give a little recap of all what I think each of the panelists have presented so far. So for the first presenter's presentation, like I said earlier on, reminds me of some of the traumas that many people went through during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I can imagine how difficult it must have been for people in these IDP camps, especially for women. Now, I'm saying for women because research has shown that when it comes to chaotic situation or in chaotic context, women are most often more vulnerable than men because of the way they are biologically and genetically wired. So from his research, we're able to see how generally people in the IDP camp didn't have access to good medical care, right? But for women, it was much more it was a more harrowing experience because in addition to not having medical care, they also lacked reproductive health care, which for a number of them led to unintended pregnancies. And one of the effects or grave effects of unintended pregnancy is unsafe abortion, which puts women's life at risk. And then from Dr. Sonia's presentation, we're able to see how the avalanche of information about sex and reproductive health could sometimes be inimical to young people's reproductive health choices. But what I find striking in our presentation is the respondents' perception about the influence of their mothers on their reproductive health care. How majority of the girls agree that their relationship with their mothers would shape their reproductive health choices. But and then a question arises from that. Yes.
He said something. What I found out from them is that maybe the economic pressures or pressure that we are facing, maybe in the Nigerian situation, more mothers are away from their children than it used to be.
That is what I have a problem with.
Yes.
So that leads us to the question who owns the child? Like, should it be the mother's responsibility to take care of the children?
So that's why I think that we are all vulnerable. All of us, and we are all responsible at the same time.
Exactly.
Because for me as a person, I do my bit. Yes, I do my bit. You see that general class, because I have all of them in 100 level in one room. Sometimes I tend to veer from what's the topic because I've noticed something.
Okay, so you still have time to respond to all this. But for me, I like what I find most striking in our presentation is like, okay, a part I find striking is the emphasis of mother's role in their child's life. But I feel that like the mother is not the only one that has a child. The father is there. So why should I be as a mother be the only one to give my child sexual education? What is the role of the father then? Like the father should also be responsible for the sexual education of their children. So that also leads us to Maluchi's presentation. Now, I find the concept of educated celibacy very interesting because, in a way, there are times I feel that sex is overrated, and sex is actually, in our present society, sexual pleasure is conceived to be like a man's thing, right? But the fact remains that women have sexual agency. Women also enjoy sex, and they can own up to enjoying sex. So don't mind me, please. I'm a sex researcher. So if I take this conversation towards the area of sex, it's something I research on. So I just must talk about it. So women also enjoy sex, right? But I have a little problem with Malusi's presentation because it's like saying that women cannot be proactive, cannot make rave or break new grounds if they are sexually active. So because you in your presentation you gave instances of some people that made giant strides when they decided to be celibate. So are you saying that a woman that is sexually active or decides to have sex as much as men do cannot make it in life? You still have time you still have time to respond to this question. Yeah, you still have time to respond to that question, Malushi. But that is what that's like the problem I have with your presentation because it's like saying that okay, when a woman has sex or when a woman is sexually active or too sexually active, there's a limit to what she can achieve. Don't worry, you have time to attend to the question. So now the floor is open for questions. So should we pick all the questions at once or pick them in batches and no, you can't ask now until we satisfy that audience. Okay, so maybe we start from the front. So okay, let's pick one, almost everybody. So let's just number them now and then if more questions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's start with Dr. Mujile.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, presenters. All of the topics are quite interesting. I came in with the second presenter was asking which part. I noticed something, and it is of the distress. If sexual relationships, sexual intimacy has to do with two people of different genders, why are researchers always focusing on the gender? Particularly, the gender that does not have the power to initiate certain things, the ones that have been focused to enjoy sex.
But they're not expected to enjoy sex.
Because the stereotyping is there.
Yeah.
They have been observers. So we want to tackle the impact and leave it to and not with that. That is why researchers, in trying to make a investigation, examine, we should be careful. My challenge with research in recent times is that we may no longer be there. The next generation that will come after will do this research in the past, in soft and hard copies. And they wonder what were our generations of researchers doing.
Sorry, and Dr. Mika, can you please go straight to your question?
Concerning your presentation. So, for your presentation, it is quite fascinating, and at the same time, it has heightened my curiosity to a certain level. I can't say categorically that as a counselor, I've seen instances where I've asked couples that have frequent misunderstandings to go for sex therapy. So how, when I say sex therapy, they should have sexual intimacy at intervals, and let's see with more often than they used to. And let's see if that misunderstanding keeps. And most times they come back, see, some of them are shying away, they don't want to shine. From my own personal experience, I remember maybe I was writing my master's thesis. I was under a lot of pressure, I was going through a lot of stress. And anytime I'm stressed up, the next thing I want to do is I want to go back home to my husband out of 6. And once I'm done, my brain is clear, I can figure out the next thing. So if you are not talking about educated celibacy, does that mean that all of people like Okonjo Iweala, Ngozi Ezekwesili, Dora Quilly, for them to attain that kind of professional height, they were celibate at some certain points to have crossed the hurdle. That is one. Then two, is to say that how do you measure? I was waiting for where you get your methodology in your, but you didn't talk about your methodology. So I want to know what is the methodology to acquire the data you use for your research. So I've been able to measure sexual celibacy. But because you said something that right upon with me, you said
They said, and at some point he said, she didn't have sex. I don't know. We don't follow each other everywhere. We don't go into our living. So how were we sure? Can you see? Sex does not really have to do with when a man penetrates. You understand? Yeah. If you say you don't have, you because it's you understand? You guys say it's sex. So how do you measure celibacy? And please.
All right. Thank you very much. Next,
Yes, I think about what she said.
sorry, please, may I please ask that you go straight to a question because we don't have much time left there. No, actually addressing this.
Yes, I understand. But I didn't rush it. The second speaker, the data was actually conducted in the city. And you are actually asking the question directly. So I have a problem reaching the conclusion after getting their responses. Which you know, when it comes to topics like this, sometimes they just want to tell you what they think you want to hear. Especially when you mention that there is a village that you ask them to put their name. And before, no. Sorry. But you never retrieve it.
When the questionnaire was being constructed, I did that.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I knew that I may to limit. It's as good as me asking close-ended questions. So the minute I remove the names,
you are responding.
Yes.
Now, my question, let me go through the main question. During the time of the research, were they together, both male or female, or they just separated?
no, what I actually did when I started.
No, you can address the question.
Oh.
So just take note of them. All right. Can we?
Okay. Our answer will have
No, she can't answer
Yes,
it. She can't answer it right now.
yes, that was so now. I want to believe that they answered based on what you.
Can you please go straight to
want
because we don't have much time.
Now, let me go to the second. That's why I said she has said part of it. What actually was the measure that prompted us to know that they are actually educated celibacy? Is it by announcements? Is it by do they have a club that when they join it, we actually know that okay, they belong to this particular thing? Or what are the measures? What are the yardsticks for us to judge them as educated celibacy? Not only when they said something outside, even though maybe some of them said something that may be doing something else. Let me put it that way. Maybe.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, first presenter, I not know have a question, but just a comment. And you did analysis bringing up the.
Please, can you stand up?
Yeah. You made your mention, the ladies or the girls at the university. You mentioned actually, but I don't want to say that most of our researchers these days, when it comes to sex education, we focus more in gender, and the balance should be there. Because most of the time, all these young boys actually they're also the same problem, even not more. And so please God, remember the share or say that time that you see the duty of the mother to educate. I also she also tailoring to that effect. Then what are the duties of the father as well in that sex education to the children? The fact is that most of the time we shy away by investigating the challenges the young boys are passing through when it comes to sex education. We focus more on female rather than the male. So please, I want to just balance that in our for further research. Not only that, also the third present on celibacy. I why was talking on the education self-celibacy, education celibacy. That just crossed my mind one day. I met a woman who just said, well, if not because my children are grown now, I will just abandon this man. And I look at her, why? And she said, when we were young in marriage, he was grown up out chasing the here and there. But because let me enjoy him now. That's why I stayed. If now that I've overused him, so I can leave him. And so before president said that after 4 children, after four, that's it, going to serve celibacy. So
Okay, can you please give room? All right, next. Yes.
No, just the camera can pick you.
So I asked this, there was a panel that I attended, and I brought up this question, and I was beginning to feel like that was not the right place to bring it up. So I think the topic addressed here is perfect for the question. So I have a friend, she's 22, and she has PCOS, but it's pills induced. She was contraceptive pills induced PCOS. So we hear a lot about sex education. She comes from an educated family, they are well to do so. Education, the educational part is not something she necessarily lacks. So the challenge I feel like is there's never specifics or there's never um well detailed information into sex education. It's like, oh, if you do this, this is what's gonna happen. There's no concrete information about how contraceptives work, especially for younger people. And then she says, oh, she and her boyfriend will just do their thing, and then we say, oh, okay, go online, take this 24 hours after you to remove your period, blah, blah, blah. She didn't know she was hurting herself. And then the information is also there, like, what she's just 22 now. And then every week she spends money every week in the hospital because of misinformation or her plight. So
So
how
what's the
can
question?
young people
Okay.
how can young people have more focus or more complete information about like their sexual experiences and contraceptives
Okay.
and stuff like this?
All right. I can answer. Okay, next person. Did you raise your hand? Okay, please let her. Please, can you please just like summarize your question because we really don't have much time left. All right.
My question is that are the realities of people who do not have access to education different from those people who really have? Because there are people out there, you said that information is out there, people have access to information. Don't you think that the realities of those who have access to information is quite different from people out there in some settings who do not have access? Not all youth are on social media.
Yes. All right. Yes. Thank you.
So my question is to the person that just to ask, because you mentioned abortions at the IDP camps. So I want to ask, are there safer ways to actually control abortions at these camps? Or should I say, what are the measures in place for safer abortions? Because some of these people, they are victims to like rape and also sexual harassment, like you mentioned. So if we just leave this ones to their fate, or there are ways to actually help them out if contraception are not maybe accepted or something, because actually we can also in this way avoid complicated health systems for these victims, and also maybe probably overpopulation, reduce overpopulation at IDP camps, but that itself can also heighten the risk of complicated health systems and camps.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.
By first time is to be able to second
You want us to stand up?
Yes, okay, sorry. My question is in the second defense. While you were presenting, we saw some of the challenges with academics is because due to lack of effective communication with guidance, maybe in most cases, their mother. So now, in the situation whereby sometimes some of these sort of guidance or mothers, they are nothing to write home about. So what will you advise teenagers to do?
All right. Yeah.
Mine is not the question.
Okay.
I want to comment on what you shared there. She made mention of the word pretense. And I think it's very, very essential for parents. Most parents actually pretend that these things are not really happening. They are. And then importantly also, the manner at which we give this sex education. She mentioned that also. Because some parents also, and then particularly teachers at the secondary school level, their approach to give this sex education.
10 minutes. Yes.
And then one more thing on
yes, we have 10 minutes left.
Focusing on women. I think according to the feminists, they see society see men as the norm, and then women as otherwise.
The other, yes.
So that's why things are like that. It's as if discussions are focusing on women so that things will come.
Balance.
Yes, balance.
Okay.
Thank you.
Was you know, you didn't raise up your hand at first. She did. So let's ask. They both did. Okay, they both did. Okay, so we'll take your question last.
Gender issues.
Okay, please. You have it. Okay.
All
right.
And what I was trying to say that for most of us, I was born in the late 70s.
Okay.
And just the way several speakers spoke about we being spoken to by parents that don't go to schools, that was what we thought. And then somebody also mentioned that parents now are not in tune with their children, they are not in tune. When you are trained in a particular way, you have to retrain yourself and retrain your thinking, not get around those the trainings you got initially about sexuality and things general.
Okay.
Now, for the point I was mentioning about somebody having pills, for me, I would rather say abstain to save yourself a lot of trouble. It's hard, it's difficult, but abstinence is the best. Just get married.
Okay, please let's take the last question. Okay, yes. Sorry, please, silence, please.
Two presenters I met. Because I didn't know where
You missed.
After the panel, I wrote down 7 years.
7.
Okay, Dr. Ellen's intervention displays the internet. Also displays, so I'm left with the sheet.
Okay, thank God.
The first question was to
Dr. Sonia?
Dr. Sonia, sorry. So you talk about the influence of the internet on the adolescents.
Okay.
Right. Now, I have a second question. Which one comes first? Do the adolescents influence internet or internet with them? Which one comes first?
Internet influences them.
Internet,
You still answer.
internet influences them. Well, okay, well, I want to agree with you, but for me, I feel who puts the content on the internet? Does the internet put the content? So then, the second question you talked about abstinence or celibacy. I think you need to redefine that for celibacy, just as he said. You see, celibacy is a sacred vow. Abstinence to me is a loose decision that can be lost anytime. So also I want to ask that in the course of you trying to abstain, have you thought of thinking about some of the benefits of sex? Like I am made to understand that during sex there is an hormone that is secreted only
Happy hormone.
That hormone is happiness hormone. Don't secret that in
All right. So okay, so we have exactly 6 minutes left. So that leaves each presenters 2 minutes to address the question. So then may I please add that the second part of this panel continues immediately after lunch by 3:45 p.m. in this same place. So yeah, exactly. No, you don't have time. I'm sorry. No, you say it after. So please let them. So 2 minutes, please. 2 minutes. We have 6 minutes left. All right.
Okay, I would like to say that yes, let's. Okay, let me respond to your question, my sister. You see, every person under in Nigeria will have to operate under the Constitution of the Federal Republic. First of all, it is not constitutionally accepted to abort.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes left.
In this part of the country. And then, except it is medically proven that that child, you may lose your life or you understand. So let me stop there.
It's a product of incest or rape.
Yes, maybe if it's a product of incest or rape. But when the man is telling you that this is my wife, or it's not for abortion,
it's illegal.
There's no justice.
Yes, abortion in Nigeria is legal except on the grounds of rape, incest, and when it poses a risk with the life of the mother. All right, Dr. Sonia.
Okay.
I think someone answered the question about why gender, why do we tend towards women? And I think women, we are supposed to be the balance of the society.
Yeah.
First,
Yeah.
secondly, we're the one that bears the brunt when it comes down to it, as I said.
Yeah.
When the period is lost, there's nothing we can do about it. So we have to warn the girl more. But I realized as I was carrying out my research that the boys also need attention. I have 3 boys. I'm a mother of boys and I have 1 girl. So I think we tend to shy away from talking to the boy, you know. And you see, some parents have a problem. Some parents cannot call penis or vagina with their mouth, and they are doing it every day. Yeah, you know, that's the truth. The societal pretense. We have to come off it because this generation has changed. That's why I said, tell me as it is. Don't code it, right? Just tell them the way it is. Then secondly, you said not all youth have access to information. What kind of information are you talking about? That's what I'm saying, because what these ones go to Google on the internet, like what you said about the PCOS, right? The ones who don't have phone may not go there, but somebody is luring a child in the corner and said, I will give you 50 naira if you come, let me touch your breast, or let me touch that place. And then you give the child, you know, the money. Because if the child needs the money, the child will go, hunger is in town. So it depends on the kind of information. It's not everything that's on the net. The man in the corner, they himself may not have phone, but if you had educated that child at home, you understand what I'm saying? That a boy goes to the corner, don't go. The child will not go there. That's information I'm talking about. Information about sex and sexuality.
Okay.
I need to.
No. Like we are.
You see when the parents, guardian of parents are nothing to write home about. I don't know. I can't judge, but I'm saying that we may not be able to get the problem 100% off the market, but we can reduce it, the prevalence, if we all do our parts.
Okay, thank you very much. So,
Thank you. When I was actually studying this in my abstract, my text read that okay, this is a divergent view. Get ready. So I'm not shocked at all. So to a large extent, yes, what you said about celibacy and abstinence, at the time I was sending it, celibacy was what came to my mind, but by the time I finished my research, abstinence was just like you said, the major thing, but it was already written down. So I said, let me move with celibacy. So on the one is a Dex research. It's a Dex research. So more or less, what I see, what I read, what you have told me is what I take. I cannot go to her and say, Ellen Johnson said it. True, were you not saying that? I didn't do that. So it's more rejection. So we now talk about using the men as in by the time. For me, it's not a case. I have seen people who were actually. It wasn't a case of using the man. It was a case of they were being abused. And if you read up an Johnson Seliff's story, even that of Wangari, you know that they were actually being abused and they had to leave. So it wasn't a case of you overuse the man and there's nothing else to be used to use from him again, and then you decide to leave him and not do anything. But the truth of the matter, if we must be realistic, or rather, okay, let me round up. Okay, if we must be realistic, the truth is there are actually people who are practicing abstinence. They are people and they are real.
I agree with you. All right. To address the question about the 22-year-old, is it still here? Okay. Year-old girl. The thing is, so your question basically is whose responsibility it is to educate? Yeah.
My question is, why is there no in-depth information? Like
there is information. There's information online, and then there are NGOs that specialize in these things that can even conduct abortion for you. Look like a question. There are NGOs that conduct abortion, like coded low key for a very minimal rate. All right. NGOs like Mary Stokes, IPATS, and the rest of all that. So there are NGOs that work with women on women's reproductive health issues. Well, our time is up. We have to leave now, but we will converge at 3:45, same venue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Such a nice moment.
This kind of session is better discourse.